Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Hi. I'm Moira Shori, the Executive Director of Zócalo Public Square, a unit of Arizona State University Media Enterprise. At Zócalo, our mission is to connect people to ideas and to each other. Everything we do is free, and everyone is welcome. We publish original writing and present conversations like this one. We were founded in 2003, and now we're celebrating our 21st year. You can find us at zocalopublicsquare.org, on podcast platforms, and on YouTube, so please subscribe for our latest programs. So it's really great to be here at the San Bernardino County Museum to conclude our series, What is a Good Job Now? And this is a series we've done with the support of the James Irvine Foundation. This series focuses on workers in the low-wage sectors of California's economy, in communities across the state. Through public programs and essays, grounded in workers' experiences and realities, we have explored how to make the hardest jobs more rewarding and make life better for those who do them. Tonight's program asks, what is a good job now in childcare? Let me introduce our moderator, Rebecca Gale. Rebecca is an award-winning journalist at the Better Life Lab at New America with years of experience covering the nexus of politics and people in Washington, D.C. Her reporting on childcare, paid family leave, parenting, and work has appeared in the New York Times, the Washington Post, Slate, Marie Claire, Health Affairs, Zócalo Public Square, among many other outlets. Over to you, Rebecca.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Hello and welcome. I'm Rebecca Gale. I am a staff writer with the New America's Better Life Lab, where I cover childcare. And we are so glad you're here. So we are starting tonight's program with scenes from the documentary Make a Circle. It's directed by Jen Bradwell and Todd Bokelheide. The film follows a group of childcare providers who are determined to change how society values the education of its youngest citizens. It gives us a window into the life of an early childhood educator, people we don't often hear enough from and whose stories aren't always front and center in the debate around making childcare more affordable and accessible. But as you'll see, this includes a promising blueprint for fixing our broken childcare system. So watch the movie now.
Hi, I'm Jen Bradwell, and my husband Todd Bokelheide and I are the filmmakers for the new documentary Make a Circle, which we like to think of as a love letter to early childhood educators and a wake-up call for the rest of us. You know, if we want a childcare system that works for everyone, which yes we do, whether we have young kids or not, then the work of early educators really needs to be seen and celebrated and compensated for everything that they're doing to hold up our communities. We're gonna share with you tonight a trailer for the film and then a short scene that will introduce you to an amazing, larger-than-life family childcare provider in Oakland named Charlotte. We really hope you enjoy these clips from Make a Circle, and we're wishing you a great event and conversation tonight with Zócalo Public Square.
I love this work. But parents can't afford to pay. Teachers can't afford to stay.
Childcare now! Childcare now! Childcare now! What is it?
We have families that are homeless and are really struggling. I tell my staff, this is Disneyland. Make it happen.
Thank you.
I love this torture. I love it. I love it.
Now, tell her with your words.
But I could be driving an Amazon delivery truck and making more money.
I'm angry that our society doesn't support this field enough for you to stay in this work.
We're not the Girls Glee Club. We're going to talk about policy, how we can better our lives. That's why you are here.
we're coming and saying, you can't ignore us.
Child care now!
When we fight,
We win!
when we fight,
We win!
Let me see those muscles.
oh.
I said I wanted to open my own daycare preschool. My family thought I was crazy. Don't do it. You don't have money. And I just said, I'm just gonna do it and I'm gonna trust God.
Okay, I bet.
You been drinking some milk?
Yeah.
We have a family at my school. We lost the mom to COVID.
That's blue.
That's blue. What is that? That part of my job, you know, where the parents don't see me crying, it's hard. We just love on that baby a lot.
I love big muscles.
You got big muscles because you're eating your fruit?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm happy you're eating. What'd that say?
A-R-I-A-H.
Whose name is that?
Mine.
All right, are you ready? We know that we have families that are homeless, you know, and are really struggling. A parent might be in the middle of substance abuse, or the child says she saw the daddy hit the mommy or something like that. Just life. And I tell my staff, this is Disneyland. Make it happen. Green! Okay, oh, one more. Oh no, were you peeking? Turn it, close your eye. I'm a la, I'm a la, I'm a la. Some people say, oh, you don't need to do anything. Let them learn it in kindergarten. No, that's not gonna work. Round. Shh, don't jump. Go find the circle. Find the circle. They're fired up in kindergarten. They're gonna be fired up in the 12th grade. And when they go into college, that's a piece of cake. Okay, if you get it right, you get it.
E.
Oh, man.
J for jump rope.
J for jump rope.
H for heart.
Heart. Boom, boom, boom.
Q for question mark.
Oh, yes. Woo! I didn't get any. Who won?
Me.
I have a sister that's a nurse. She volunteered one day, and she says, you're not getting paid enough money. You should get paid like $50 an hour. And I was like, are you kidding? I was like, try 7. Yeah, $7, $8 an hour if you did the math.
Wow. That is going to be an amazing film. I'm really glad we got to start with that. So next, I am pleased to introduce our guests who all come to this conversation tonight with their own unique lived experiences connected to care. First is Maisha Cole. She is the executive director of the Child Care Law Center. She has been a leader and educator in the legal field for over 20 years. She is passionate about combining her love of education and legal expertise to create better opportunities for children, families, and child care professionals. She has deep ties in the community to legal aid programs and among advocates. She is dedicated to advancing the Law Center's mission to advocate, educate, and litigate to make child care a civil right. Maisha received her BA in political science from UC Berkeley and her JD from UC Law San Francisco, formerly Hastings. Next is Juanita Gutierrez. She has been in childcare for about 8 years, wearing various hats as a teacher, director, and administrator. She currently works at Oak Tree Learning Center, where her primary focus is closing the educational gap. Juanita loves working with children and learns new things every day from them. She believes that every child deserves high-quality education and care as they are our future. She spends her free time with her family and her dogs. Next is Ai-jen Poo, is a next-generation labor leader, award-winning organizer, author, and leading voice in the women's movement. She is the president of the National Domestic Workers Alliance, executive director of Caring Across Generations, and a trustee of the Ford Foundation. Poo is a nationally recognized expert on the care economy and is the author of the celebrated book, The Age of Dignity, Preparing for the Elder Boom in a Changing America. You can follow her online at iGenP on Instagram and iGenPoo on X. And we have Lisa Wilkin. Lisa is the executive director of the Child Development Consortium of Los Angeles, a nonprofit organization that provides early care and education services for children from birth until kindergarten. Ms. Wilkin serves on the Los Angeles County Child Care Planning Committee and is public policy advisor for Every Child California. She has been a classroom teacher for infants, toddlers, preschool, and kindergarten children, as well as adjunct faculty in early childhood education at Santa Monica College and a member of the school board of the El Segundo Unified School District. So thank you all for joining us tonight. I would like to remind our audience that we'll be taking questions toward the end of the program. If you are watching online, you can, and we hope you will, submit questions to the live chat on YouTube. And with that, let's get started. My first question is actually for the audience. How many of you work in childcare? Great. So I want to ask Maisha, that we have people here from center-based childcare and family childcares. And we want to know what do these childcare programs, which are different but also similar, have in common, and how can they work together to advance the larger goal of making childcare a better job for everyone who works in the industry?
Okay, good question. So thank you for everyone in the audience who does childcare. So I would like to say that childcare providers are dedicated professionals and they should be paid fairly and supported to provide the care that they provide to children. That's right. So Childcare Law Center, we believe that childcare should be a civil right. And childcare is early education. So all childcare providers, whether they're in a center or at a family childcare home, should be seen as a profession. Childcare providers should be getting paid like any college professor, because a brain being developed at a tender age of 0, 1, 2, 3 is just like a tender age of 19, 20, 21. Like, they all need to be developed in their own way. Children are all different, and everyone needs to learn in their own way and on their own path. So for me, I feel like all childcare providers need to understand that regardless of if you work in a center or a home, that you should come together and work together for the good of society. Childcare providers are critical. As we all seen during COVID, when everything else shut down, childcare didn't shut down. Mm-hmm. Children still had to go somewhere, especially for essential workers. And for the most part, some centers closed, but some centers stayed open. But family childcare providers didn't close. People still had to bring their children in, and often not only 0 to 5, but the school-age children. School districts were closed. So where do people think these children went, right? So they went to childcare providers. So childcare providers are not just babysitters. Like, when I was a little kid, I used to babysit. Yeah, because I fed kids snacks and we watched TV. But family childcare providers, center workers, the entire workforce should be seen as a profession. Just like an attorney, they should be high caliber. Like, I respect childcare providers. I actually provided care, and I was like, "Ooh, can't do this. I'm going back to the law." Like, it's a little easier. But hopefully that answered the question. I'm all over the place, but I just want childcare providers to know, just as a whole, as a workforce, that, that they have support, but they also should support each other. Center-based family providers, even family, friends, and neighbors should be seen as part of the workforce. Obviously, grandma taking care of her grandkids may not be seen as a worker in that sense, but grandma is still providing care, guidance, the cultural experience for these children. Because once they hit kindergarten, who knows what teacher they're going to get? Who knows who's going to be supportive of their language difference or of their learning difference. We have children with disabilities in childcare who get that, nurturing before they hit K through 12. Because K through 12 is like a jungle.
Yeah.
So, I'm sorry.
That's excellent. This actually leads right into my next question about the kindergarten readiness and the brain development you're talking about. And Juanita, when you and I spoke earlier today, you talk about how these kids are really learning and developing every day. And we know that the kids' brains are developing so much in 0 to 5.
Yes.
They are not just moldable blobs, but actually learning in and taking in their environment and the people around them. So tell me a bit about the work you do in your day-to-day job to get kids ready for kindergarten and why that is so important in early education to have that kindergarten readiness.
Well, once you work with kids, you help them build their building blocks. That's the first thing, you have the cognitive, the language, social, it's important. You have to learn how to build all of that as a teacher, how to approach it. As Maisha mentioned, you have different learning disabilities, you have different languages that you gotta go through, but, sorry. I was gonna say, as you go through all of that, the kids will learn different aspects. Once you hit elementary and kindergarten, if they haven't learned all of that, it's very hard for them to continue. You haven't built those blocks first. That small little step that they need to then continue to learn.
Yeah, great. Yeah, please.
So I think that a lot of times because people look at early education programs and they think the kids are just playing, but they're actually, while they're playing, they are learning all sorts of different things. They're developing pre-math skills. They're learning language. They're learning how they become scientists. Even infants and toddlers they do experiments to figure out, cause and effect. It's all part of the development of it is academics. I have toddlers who do pre-algebra, but it's not algebra like X plus Y equals Z. It's patterning, figuring out what patterns in the environment. The things like the daily routine is a pattern that children then learn what comes next, what comes next, what comes next. And that is part of algebraic thinking. But I think a lot of times we don't do a good job of really communicating what the children are learning while they are playing in our homes and in our child care program.
I really love that piece of it. And I also saw in the video that was so powerful when the educator is working with these kids, teaching them their letters and their numbers, and says she's getting paid $7 or $8 an hour, which is really something to reckon with, someone who's working full-time and they cannot really live on that kind of salary. And when we talk about a broken childcare system and how to fix it, we are looking at states like California, but we're also looking on the national level. So my question is for Aijen. And we know we had an election, and we know how things happen, and 2025 is going to look different. What can we expect in 2025, and what role can childcare providers play in helping keep childcare in the conversation?
There has never been a more important time for the voices of childcare workers to lead the conversation about policy. We live in a country where 10,000 babies are born every single day. And there are 33 million households across the country with children, where children are being raised. And that means that for all of those working age adults, in order for them to work and participate in the economy, they need access to childcare. They need access to the caregiving supports. And we as a country have not really collectively prioritized investments in care. And so we have a situation where 98% of the workforce earns more than the average childcare worker. 98% of workers in our economy earns more than the average childcare worker, which is so nonsensical because childcare work is what enables every other form of work in our economy. We call it the work that makes all other work possible, right? When you invest in a childcare job, becoming a living wage job, that not only benefits her and her family, it also benefits the children in her care to have a consistent voice and educator in their life. And it makes it possible, it's a job-enabling job. It makes it possible for those working age adults who are the parents to go to work and participate in what they do. So we call it a triple dignity investment because it's about the dignity of the worker, it's about the dignity of the children, and it's about the dignity of the parents who actually need that caregiving support. Now, the reality is that we are heading into a really tough policymaking environment at the federal level, and there's going to be a big tax debate coming. And a tax bill is all about your values as a country. And this is where childcare workers come in. Do we invest in the caregivers, the care workers, the parents, the working parents who need these supports? Or do we give more tax breaks to corporations and billionaires? Like, that is really the question, which is why it's going to be so important that parents, that caregivers, that childcare workers and early educators have their voices heard about just how essential care is, because we want our dollars, our tax dollars, to go to them and these programs, not to more tax breaks for the wealthy and the people who need it the least, honestly. That's what's at stake. That's what's coming this year.
Yeah, that's amazing. I'm still really focused on the 98% of workers in our economy, you say, earn more than childcare workers. And that is really fascinating to me. But I know there are places like where Lisa works, where you have been able to give benefits to childcare workers, and you're able to do things to make the jobs more stable and make them better. So can you tell us a bit about how that works, how you've been able to do that, and maybe how more places can look to what you're doing as a model?
So you know, as a former teacher in childcare, it was, you know, I was struggling. And so when I got into a position where I had a little bit of control over what was happening, we really tried hard to make sure that we had supports for our staff. And you know, the reality is that there is a finite amount of money. And so I am directing money towards benefits, paid time off. You know, we have a 403B match for our employees. We have vacation time, sick time, but that comes as the trade-off with the hourly rate, because I only have a certain amount of money. And so I get a lot of times that people want, well, I want, you know, we pay, I'm from Los Angeles, so in Los Angeles, the minimum wage is $17.28 right now. So my lowest paid person is $18 an hour. And I have people that make up to $27.50, but I have, partly because I have government funding, which subsidizes a lot of the work that I'm doing. I'm not relying on parents to come up with the cost out of pocket. But they're still asking for a higher hourly rate because they have, you know, they have things that they need to pay for, like their housing costs and the food for their families and transportation and all of those things. And so it's always a little give and take on our end about how much we're going to put into the wages and how much we're going to put into the benefits. But it's, you know, for us, we wouldn't be able to do it without our government funding.
So the state funding stepping in is what really allows you to lift the floor.
Yep.
So this is
Can I just
yes,
add
please.
to that? The other OECD countries spend on average about $14,000 a year per child in investments in public systems like the subsidies that your program is able to benefit from. The United States spends about $500, $14,000 versus $500 per kid. And this is the difference. It's when we shortchange our childcare system and our childcare workers and providers, it's the children who pay the price. And we have to decide as a country that this is a priority for us, the way that every other OECD country has decided, right? That's...
Well, let's actually talk about some of that advocacy and the resources to get childcare to become some of these stronger, better jobs that we want it to be. Maisha, I know in your group at the Child Care Law Center, you're the only law center in the country dedicated to childcare, and you get calls all of the time, not just from California, with people asking some of these legal questions, all sorts of things. Can you talk a bit about what people are asking you and what you tell them, and what resources, if anybody in the audience listening has a question, where they can go to get some assistance?
Okay, so disclaimer. The Child Care Law Center, we're only licensed to practice law in California. So I have to
Californians only.
I have to put that disclaimer out. So yes, we do get calls from across the state. We are a statewide organization, and for the most part, we focus on 3 areas. We focus on housing rights for child care providers, specifically providers that provide care in their home, subsidy rights for low-income families, our families who are in transition, things like that, and disability rights for children with special needs. We want to make sure children with special needs have access to all types of childcare. So with that said, those are the 3 areas we focus on. We get calls, emails about everything. Can I get rid of my assistant? Do I have to pay my assistant, minimum wage? How do I get rid of a child with a disability? How do I deal with a parent who is disruptive? How do I deal with a parent who has custody versus another parent that doesn't? So we get all, child care law has an intersection of law with various things that you may not think about. Employment law, everything kind of comes in, and so we tend to become the social workers in essence. So people can email us any question, and what we do is we find a resource and we send the resource. So we have a series of Know the Laws that focus on our main areas, but we do have contract law. How do you, as a child care provider, develop a contract for your parents? What things can you be sued for? During COVID, a lot of families were saying, well, our child care provider is not providing masks. Can we sue? What? Providers were saying, well, parents aren't paying because they're not working, so they're not bringing their child, but they want us to hold their spot. So there's a lot of little legal issues that pop up and people don't have anywhere to go. So they tend to come to us and we do our best. We have a small staff. We do our best to try to accommodate and try to provide resources. But then what happens is we work with our partner organizations. We work with the union. We work with other organizations to help advocate on the state level for the things that people are asking. So if there's a hot topic, something comes up that's always coming up 3 or 4 times a week, we'll say, okay, who is the best person in the community and our network to work on this issue? And then we work with them to press and to advocate. And we try to teach providers how to advocate on their own behalf. Providers need to be at the table. Their voices need to be heard, especially immigrant child care providers providing this essential care in their own communities. And the state legislatures, the people who are making the decisions, don't know about them. Those are the people that we need to hear from, because the people who are in power need to understand, listen, if you keep childcare going, then Californians can work. The more Californians work, the more the economy is going to get better. It's a trickle up. Mm-hmm. It's a trickle up. And I think that it's really important for us to have these conversations because some people don't understand, and it's important for us who understand to just break it down in a realistic manner that you guys can get and that makes sense, because that's our job. Yes. I feel like that's our job. And then once you know, your job is to pass it to another provider who didn't know, or another family who didn't know.
Well, let's actually jump right into that advocacy piece, because I know people find the first-person stories of what it's like to work in this field and what you're seeing every day to be very compelling. Jen, how can childcare providers take their stories to the state and national level so they can be part of this conversation as different priorities will be decided in early 2025?
Well, I think the story that was in the film is such a great example of childcare workers coming together and asserting their voice and their power to shape their own futures. Every single childcare provider, worker has agency and the experiences, the unique ability to break it down, to Maisha's point, for legislators about how the system works, how it needs to be improved and changed, and what it is like to live inside of a system that is so undervalued when it is providing such an essential service. Only you as childcare workers can really tell that story, all of the different aspects of what you see and who suffers and how they suffer when this essential part of our lives and our economy is as undervalued as it is. So tell your story and tell it to your local assembly person, state senator, to the governor's office, to your local city council members, your mayors. I mean, literally there are people whose job it is to receive your calls, and they write down what issues they get calls on. And at the end of every week, your congressional delegation will have a staff report to your member of Congress to say, we got 10 calls about childcare, we got 5 calls about immigration, we got 5 calls about this. And the more calls and the more memorable the stories are, the more these issues get prioritized. It literally is like that. It's like that simple and straightforward. So never underestimate the power of your one voice, your one call at any given moment. And when we can do it collectively, right? As unions, as organizations, as movements for care, that's when it's the most powerful.
And remember that there's other groups that are competing for their attention. And I've had more than one legislator say, we don't hear anything from childcare.
Wow.
But it's, we hear from the in-home caregivers, we hear from the disability rights people, we hear from them, we don't hear anything from childcare people. And I think partly is we're just really nice. We are caregivers. We want to take care of people. We don't want to be confrontational, and I think that's just, it's to our detriment on the public policy level because we're not making ourselves noticed.
Well, I also know we will need allies in this fight, people who don't necessarily work in childcare. So Juanita, I know many people in this audience are familiar with childcare, but we have a much wider audience watching.
So if you're not prepared for that, I think it's a little hard to get used to it. I think as a teacher, you made a choice, a mental choice that you're gonna come into the unknown every day. Either something had a meltdown at home, they didn't want to put their pants on, and now they just came into the classroom crying. So you never know what's gonna happen, but it's very rewarding. Once you get past all the chaos, all the craziness, it's really nice to see the kids grow. They're learning something new every day. See them come in happy with a big smile to hug you, or have the parents say, I'm so glad you're here. Yesterday you were gone, they had a meltdown. So having all of that afterwards, it's really good. But you definitely have to be prepared for everything.
That's good.
You never know.
There's that really heartbreaking moment in the video where one of the guy was saying that he was going to leave his job to make more money for Amazon, and I know that is a common thing in childcare. So Lisa,
is the place where lots of people.
Yeah, can you talk a bit about some of the staffing crisis that's happening in childcare and what strategies can be either implemented or funding or anything that can be done to potentially draw more people to this very important field?
Yeah, I think that for those of us who are in the early childhood field and we talk to each other, and the most common topic of conversation is how do you find staff? And this is a job where it's poverty wages a lot of times. It's probably, or shouldn't say probably, there are sectors of early childhood where there are no benefits. There's no time off. Family child care providers particularly have a really hard time being able to take a vacation, because they have to be in their home 80% of every day, and if they're not there, they can't have children in their home, so the wages are low. The working conditions are challenging, like she said, there's always something happening. And we had a child running across the playground and fell and tripped and hit his head on a piece of playground equipment. We had to call the paramedics. They had to go to the emergency room. We had to have things like that happen. Not often, but they do. And we're dealing with not just with the children, but also with the parents who love their children passionately and are concerned if things don't go perfectly, that there's something wrong. And so we're dealing with potential liability issues and parents who yell at you because you can't find their kid's jacket, or they could go to work at Costco for $5 more an hour, and it's like the worst that they have to deal with is a customer who can't find the toilet paper section. It's just such a different, it's such hard work for such little reward. And so people are not choosing that. They want jobs that are more flexible. I need my teachers to show up every single day. Those kids rely on them. The parents rely on them. They can't say, I'm going to work from home today. They have to show up. And then lots of, particularly younger people, really want flexibility in their work. And childcare is not a flexible work occupation.
You cannot zoom into childcare.
Exactly.
But a lot of people talk about it as a workforce shortage, and it's really not a workforce shortage. It's a shortage of good paying jobs. Right? There are workers. It's just the quality of the jobs. And the other thing people say is, we just need more training programs, more education programs, but until we raise the wages and offer better conditions and invest in this workforce, no amount of training is going to address this issue. And so it is about, we need to stop talking about upgrading the worker and start talking about upgrading the jobs.
That's right. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, California is unique in the country, not only, but they have a child care providers union. And Maisha, I'd love for you to spend a minute or two explaining some of the work this union does, how it can benefit child care workers, and even how child care workers who are not part of this union can still benefit from some of the work the union is doing behind the scenes.
Okay, so the Child Care Providers Union, CCPU, yes, has been organizing since around 2004 or so. They've been organizing for years, but we're finally able to legally bargain with the state of California in 2019. So that was a victory in itself. Fighting for your right to fight for your right is just counterintuitive to my brain. So now they have the legal right to bargain with the governor. And what that looks like is that childcare doesn't have a designated funding source. So most people don't know that. So K through 12 gets money from the state every year. Colleges, all the University of California, Go Bears, all those universities get money from the state automatically. Whereas childcare has to fight every year to keep funding or to increase funding. So that's really, really important. And I think that's where the union came in, is really trying to press, really trying to get providers to understand that as a collective, your voice can be heard together. I'm not even sure if I'm answering the question, but I'm gonna keep going. But I think that a couple of the things that were really, really important, we just had a session.
Está en casa tosiendo y tal vez siendo un suplente, pero van los niños y quién va a estar ahí. Pero somos cuidadores. Este tipo de cosas son importantes. O el tema de la jubilación, ¿qué pasa? Si yo voy a cuidar niños hasta los 80, ¿quién me va a cuidar a mí después? Ahí empezamos a hablar de otros temas como del cuidado de los adultos mayores. Es como un ciclo vicioso en realidad. En cuanto al sindicato, el sindicato trabaja para todos los proveedores, da cuidado para las familias. Así que el sindicato trabaja para todos los proveedores, incluso si eres un proveedor que da cuidado a una familia subsidiada. Tal vez no sabes que el sindicato está trabajando para ti tras bambalinas, pero sí lo está haciendo. Es como Santa Claus y sus elfos. Hay alguien trabajando detrás para que se hagan todos los juguetes y para que Santa Claus pueda ir a entregarlos. Aquí podría ser el gobernador, pero sí, o sea, bueno, el gobernador se lleva el crédito por hacer tantas cosas en California, cuando en realidad todos han estado haciendo un trabajo maravilloso, solamente se lleva el crédito porque está en el gobierno y bla, bla. Tenemos que ser buenos así de así. Gobernador, muchas gracias. Pero honestamente, la razón por la que el gobernador está ahí es porque tiene ahí esta idea o dice que los niños les son importantes, pero sí tenemos que fortalecer la fuerza laboral. No es que la gente no ama a los niños y niñas y no quieren trabajar ni cuidarlos, simplemente no pueden ganarse una vida. No puedes esperar que yo cuide a tus hijos y ni siquiera puedo yo meter a mis hijos a la escuela, ¿no? O gano muy poquito dinero, no puedo tener estampillas de alimentos, pero tengo que seguir cuidando a otros niños. Y todo el día, a veces los proveedores cuidan a niños y niñas incluso en las noches. Los padres tienen diferentes horarios laborales y eso es algo que tenemos que entender. Tenemos que apreciar nuestra fuerza laboral y tenemos que ver a los proveedores como profesionales. Eso es lo que falta, el entender que es una profesión. Tenemos que cambiar la narrativa y decir qué es lo que queremos. Y lo queremos ahora, ¿cierto? Realmente amamos lo que hacemos, pero hemos sido tímidos al respecto. Es el momento de dar un paso adelante, salir de la zona de confort, decir qué queremos y cuándo lo queremos. Porque si no, nos decepcionamos y a quién le importa, ¿no? Pero luego decimos, ¿qué importa si decepcionamos a los del gobierno? Igual estamos cuidando a los niños y niñas que nos cuidarán cuando envejezcamos. Los cuidamos. Yo me gradué de la escuela de Derecho y mis hijos estaban en preescolar, así que yo me volví cuidadora desde siempre. Mi abuela me decía, ¿qué haces? Tú tienes un título de abogada. Y yo decía, pero me encanta. Y sí, la verdad es que desde los chiquitos a los de 2 años, 3 años, cuando tengo que regresar a casa a mis propios hijos, a veces digo, tengo que regresar al tema del derecho porque es más fácil. ¿Y a qué voy con todo esto? A que como padres tenemos que apreciar a los trabajadores de los servicios infantiles y hay que movilizar a estos padres, estas madres. Padres que no solamente son subsidiados, sino aquellos que pagan, aquellos que no necesariamente sienten una conexión. Tenemos que entender que si todos componemos el sistema y lo mejoramos, todos se benefician. Ahí es donde estamos. Tenemos que empezar a pensar fuera del ordinario y unirnos como sociedad para buscar lo que realmente queremos. Sí, ¿puedes hablar sobre el sindicato? Sí. La economía del cuidado, que incluye el infantil, el de los adultos mayores, al de personas con discapacidad. Toda esta parte de la economía que se valora en 640 mil millones de dólares de actividad económica al año en Estados Unidos, que es más que toda la industria farmacéutica. Toda esta parte de la economía ha sido muy desvalorizada. Y siempre ha sido el tema de las mujeres. Las mujeres han estado trabajando de manera desproporcionada en este campo, especialmente las mujeres de color, las mujeres afroamericanas. Y el cuidado no pagado está presente y también depende de las mujeres de manera desproporcional. La única forma en la que la fuerza laboral profesional ha podido aumentar los salarios y sacarlos del nivel de la pobreza ha sido a través de los sindicatos, literalmente en el cuidado doméstico, en el cuidado directo, la parte de enfermería, toda la economía del cuidado. La única forma en la que los trabajadores del cuidado han podido lograr tener mejores salarios y beneficios ha sido al unirse y organizarse a través de un sindicato. Es simplemente lo que ha ocurrido como hecho histórico. Y para agregar algo, Uno de los temas es que los padres no pueden costear el costo real del cuidado, no lo pueden sacar de sus bolsillos, pero es muy costoso. Los padres, por lo tanto, no entienden cuál es el problema. Dicen, a ver, yo estoy pagando muchísimo dinero, ¿por qué se están quejando? Porque cuesta más de lo que creen. Y los subsidios gubernamentales realmente son la única forma en la que se puede. Cuando ella habla del sindicato, habla de los sindicatos que negocian con los gobiernos. Exacto. No es para este caso en específico, pero los sindicatos no negocian con los dueños de centros infantiles porque no tienen dinero para pagarle a esta gente. Es algo que realmente tenemos que reevaluar como sociedad. Y para hacerlo tenemos que levantar la voz, tenemos que ser ruidosos y que la gente sepa cuál es el problema y por qué el cuidado es tan costoso, qué es lo que podemos hacer para mejorarlo y para hacerlo más asequible. Es algo que tenemos que hacer, pero luego somos muy bondadosos y no queremos. No hay gente suficiente que se mete al programa porque es muy costoso. Reducimos los derechos de tutela y, no sé, no reemplazamos los muebles, no reemplazamos los juguetes, damos snacks más baratos. A veces le quitamos los beneficios a los empleados o reducimos los salarios siempre y cuando se mantengan por encima del salario mínimo. La verdad es que no es un mercado real si hablamos en temas económicos y hay que reconocerlo. Parte de ello tiene que ver con que requerimos inversiones estatales y federales. Hay países que hablamos de unos que gastan $14,000 en los niños y las niñas. Dijimos ya cuánto Estados Unidos, que es muy bajo. Entonces voy a hacer una última pregunta antes de ver si la audiencia tiene dudas. ¿Podrían decirme qué piensan en cuanto al empoderamiento o incidencia? ¿Cómo debería de verse en el campo del cuidado infantil? Déjame pensar. ¿Cómo era la pregunta? ¿Cómo tendría que ser el empoderamiento o incidencia en el campo del cuidado infantil? ¿Cómo debería verse? ¿Cómo debería de ser? Yo creo que hay que tener conversaciones como esta, hay que levantar la voz en todas las comunidades del país. Tenemos que crear coaliciones intencionales con los proveedores, con los padres, con los trabajadores. Y tenemos que unirnos, trabajar de manera colectiva para cambiar el poder que tenemos. Muchas veces subestimamos el poder que tenemos para hacer un cambio. Pero creo que si nos unimos, no sé, piensen en los 33 millones de familias que tienen interés en el tema. Los 9 millones de trabajadores que están dando cuidado infantil todos los días en este país. Hay muchísimo poder ahí. Si levantáramos la voz, unidos, unidas, realmente podríamos hacer un cambio y podríamos cambiar los términos de esta lucha. Hay que hacer que la gente esté más consciente de la situación, que sepan que el cuidado infantil es importante, que necesitamos a los trabajadores de los servicios infantiles. O sea, no es que solamente van a trabajar, están educando a los niños y las niñas. El estar más conscientes, creo yo, que podría generar un cambio y empoderarnos y hacer las cosas para bien. Lisa, yo una vez tuve un colega que literal sacó el presupuesto frente a los padres y les dijo, esto es lo que nos cuesta. Tenía que aumentar algunos costos y los padres no querían. Y entonces dijo, es lo que tenemos. A ver, ¿en dónde meto el dinero? ¿En dónde hago recortes? Porque no puedo crear el aumento, ¿no? Y por suerte había padres ahí que podían gastar más. Y al final votaron y le dieron al centro incluso más dinero de lo que el director estaba solicitando. A veces es simplemente cuestión de dar información para que la gente entienda cómo está la situación real. Y simplemente tienes que comenzar con los padres, con las madres, incluso aquellos de bajos ingresos. Tal vez pueden ir con ustedes a visitar una oficina gubernamental y que expliquen la importancia de tener un cuidado infantil bueno para sus familias. ¿Qué significa poder hacer que los niños vayan a la escuela para que la familia salga de la pobreza? ¿Qué significa mantener un puesto para no tener que buscar asistencia social? Son historias muy importantes y muchos legisladores simplemente no tienen un marco de referencia sobre lo que está sucediendo. Hay muchos legisladores que tienen ingresos mayores, por lo que no han tenido esta batalla. Y aunque sean empáticos, realmente no lo entienden. Por eso tenemos que contar nuestras historias y tenemos que contarlas constantemente. No sé qué más decir al respecto. La verdad, no es una muy buena respuesta. Vemos legisladores que tienen hijos o hijas. Tal vez ahora ya los hijos crecieron y antes las esposas cuidaban a los niños, ¿no? Y son ahora personas, por lo tanto, que están tomando decisiones y que no saben realmente qué se necesita o qué implica cuidar a sus hijos para que ellos puedan ir a trabajar. Sí, la verdad es que tenemos que ver el cuidado infantil como un derecho civil, así como la educación. Tienes el derecho de portar armas, el derecho a tal o cual cosa. Todos los niños y niñas tienen derecho a obtener un cuidado infantil de calidad. Y el Estado tiene que buscar la forma de costearlo. El Estado tiene que hacerlo, simplemente. No tendríamos por qué hacerlo nosotros. Pero bueno, es opinión personal. Sí, exactamente, es el momento clave aquí, correcto. Ahora vamos a abrir a preguntas y respuestas. Tenemos un chat muy activo, incluyendo todas las plataformas en las que estamos saliendo ahora. Una pregunta. Pero antes, si alguien de la audiencia tiene alguna pregunta, por favor, venga para acá. Díganos su nombre y puede hacer su pregunta para el panel. Puede ser corta, de preferencia, para que a todos les dé tiempo de preguntar. La primera pregunta del chat es para Aijen. En un panorama ideal, ¿qué ley podríamos pasar a nivel federal para cambiar drásticamente el enfoque del cuidado infantil? Tendríamos que tener un cuidado infantil universal, un sistema que permita que todos puedan costear. Ha habido diferentes propuestas para acortar el cuidado de la salud. Hay gente que está gastando 24% de su ingreso en cuidado infantil. A mí me gustaría que pudiéramos llegar a un punto en el que tengamos acceso universal a un cuidado infantil de alta calidad y que fuera una prioridad nacional, por supuesto, y que todos los trabajadores infantiles tengan un salario decente, beneficios reales, y esa es la ley que necesitamos. La siguiente pregunta del chat es para cualquier miembro del panel. ¿Cómo sería un sistema de cuidado infantil ideal? Debería de ser gratuito para todas las familias, buena compensación y paga para los y las trabajadoras y cuidado de calidad. Dinero específico dedicado para el tema proveniente del gobierno para mostrar que los niños y niñas nos importan, no solamente cuando cumplen 25. Sí, algo flexible también, ¿no? Hay gente que quiere un cuidado central básico, otros quieren un cuidado apoyado por los vecinos y los familiares. Hay diferentes formas en las que el cuidado infantil puede cumplir con las necesidades familiares. Así que el sistema ideal tendría que ser flexible y tendría que financiar a la gente en todos los contextos. ¿Alguien más quisiera responder? Quiero decir altos salarios para que los cuidadores puedan proveer a sus familias. Eso también debería de estar incluido. Y tendría que ser subsidiado por el gobierno. Definitivamente no hay otra forma de hacerlo. Por décadas y décadas y décadas hemos sabido qué significa un buen cuidado infantil para los niños y las niñas. Sabemos qué es. Pero muchos programas no pueden darse el lujo de hacerlo. Así que si pudiéramos tener una mejor compensación para asegurar que el programa que estamos ofreciendo es el mejor para las niñas y los niños, eso sería lo ideal. Y para agregar algo, hay muchas industrias que son subsidiadas por el gobierno. Lo que el cuidado infantil quiere no es algo diferente que la investigación, la universidad, las ciencias, la parte militar, la educación. Hay muchos campos importantes que son subsidiados por el gobierno. Simplemente tenemos que hacer que el cuidado infantil sea parte de la ecuación. En el estado de Nuevo México se ha desarrollado una iniciativa, se hizo hace unos cuantos años, y subsidia completamente el cuidado infantil para las familias hasta 400% del nivel de pobreza. Son como $120,000 al año, hablando del salario familiar, y puedes tener el subsidio completo dependiendo cuánto ganas. El gobierno de Nuevo México votó por pasar la iniciativa y ahora es una ley. Así que sí podemos hacer cosas. ¿Hay algún país en el mundo que tenga un sistema de cuidado infantil ejemplar? Yo diría que hay países que están haciendo cosas mucho mejores que nosotros en términos de ofrecer un cuidado infantil de alta calidad, subsidiado completamente por el gobierno, los países escandinavos, por ejemplo. También países en los que los trabajadores tienen mejores salarios y son vistos como profesionales con altas capacidades. Yo diría que quizá no hay un país en el mundo en el que los trabajadores realmente son valorados y respetados al nivel al que deberían. Y me encantaría ver que nosotros fuéramos ese país. El país que guíe y lidere en cuanto al respeto y valor que se le da a los trabajadores del cuidado infantil. Claro, ya se mencionó Nuevo México. Vermont también está invirtiendo bastante. Le van a dar a los trabajadores 580, bueno, más bien le van a dar subsidios dependiendo del ingreso familiar. Estamos hablando aquí de la pobreza y 580,000. Ahora, no son políticas perfectas, son nuevas, pero se puede lograr. En 2-3 años, ojalá tengamos esta conversación nuevamente. Ya tendremos datos, tendremos información sobre estados en los que se espera que el cuidado infantil sea gratuito y de alta calidad. Y ojalá que así comencemos a cambiar la conversación. Digo, son los estados, pero ya estamos comenzando. Y ojalá California sea el próximo. Sí, ¿cómo lo haremos? Vamos a llegar ahí porque seguiremos presionando, seguiremos hablando con proveedores, familias. En Sacramento, por ejemplo, seguiremos hablando con los legisladores y contaremos nuestra historia. Y ojalá tengamos las leyes y luego utilicen nuestra experiencia legal para sobrepasar estas barreras. De eso se trata, es lo que tenemos que hacer. Tenemos que empezar a pensar como esa gente que es rica. Nosotros somos ricos en espíritu, en mente, en educación. Tal vez no tengamos todo el dinero que queremos, pero definitivamente tenemos que empezar a pensar como personas millonarias, cómo vamos a educar a nuestros hijos e hijas y al resto de los niños y niñas del país para que puedan ser quienes queremos que sean. Tenemos que no solamente decirlo, sino hacerlo.
Sí. Yo creo que vamos a poder hacer lo que queramos hacer, pero tenemos que hacerlo. Tenemos una última pregunta. Puedes sostener el micrófono, gracias. Hola, soy Gina, de CCPU. Va a ser rápido. Este panel ha sido fantástico y yo quería decirlo bien porque estoy pensando que quiero que esto se haga bien, así que en vez de decir simplemente vamos a hacer esto y no decir gran cosa, quería planear lo que iba a decir en mi pregunta. ¿Cuál es su opinión sobre nuestra organización, sobre esta organización para poder generar este cambio que se necesita tanto? ¿Y cómo ustedes en este panel planean apoyar a CCPU, sindicato de proveedores de cuidados infantiles, para que puedan ganar más dinero? Como todos ustedes. Planean, tú también, Bárbara. ¿Cómo nos van a apoyar para recibir una mejor paga? Porque yo soy de esas personas que me despierto en la mañana para cuidar a estos bebés, aunque esté enferma. Cuando fue la pandemia, yo me volví educadora en ese momento, pero también era alguien que daba apoyo emocional y todo lo demás. Y nadie me dijo, yo sé que soy trabajadora esencial, pero nadie me vino a decir, a diferencia de los bomberos y proveedores de salud, yo tenía que estar allí también. ¿Cómo nos van a apoyar? Algo que no mencioné cuando di la parte de la biografía contando un poco sobre mi trayectoria es que yo también fui prestadora de servicios de cuidados familiares, pero no logré más de un año, no logré aguantar más de un año. Mi organización también tiene una red de proveedores con quienes podemos atender a pequeños, y algo de lo que hacemos es que hacemos un reembolso más elevado que la tasa regional del mercado, el índice regional, como incentivo, porque hay menos servicios de atención disponibles para ellos. Y de hecho tengo una reunión el 14 de diciembre con un par de negociadores de CCPU para asegurarnos que se entienda muy claramente cómo funcionan estas redes y cómo pueden ayudar a los proveedores a aprovechar estas redes y así no solo aumentar su paga, sino también ayudarles a conocer, a saber de qué necesitan ellos hablar, qué necesitan conocer al momento de estar en negociaciones con el Estado, porque cuando en ocasiones escucho a proveedores de CCPU que no tienen una comprensión muy clara de lo que hacen las redes y cómo están estructuradas. Así que lo que queríamos era asegurarnos que la negociación estuviera allí para que no nos puedan venir a decir no sabes de qué se trata nuestra red. Ese ha sido para mí mi compromiso personal.
The National Domestic Workers Alliance and Caring Across Generations have been part of building a national coalition called
También está la coalición Care Can Wait, que reúne a defensores de diferentes niveles de atención, incluyendo a los sindicatos que representan a los trabajadores y la economía de los cuidados. Y tenemos una coalición en California que creo que podría ayudar y apoyarles a ustedes mucho en esta negociación. Así que díganos dónde y cuándo y allí estaremos. Yo no tengo esas conexiones todavía. Estaré mucho más atenta por mis padres porque he estado en esa posición en la que he estado enferma y he tenido que ir a trabajar. Y sé que muchos de los maestros no saben de este sindicato, no saben que ustedes existen, así que simplemente al estar allí con los padres, con los profesores, en la comunidad. Con eso va a ayudarles mucho a generar conciencia y ayudar a que las poblaciones puedan levantar la voz. A mí no me gusta hacer promesas cuando me están grabando, pero sí puedo decir que, como ustedes saben, hemos trabajado con ustedes apoyándolos por años. Sus voces para nosotros es lo que nos dirige. Lo que hacemos siempre se basa en lo que nos dicen los papás. Mi compromiso con ustedes es que siempre vamos a escucharles. Estaremos allí para ayudarles a leer y entender todo aquello que sea muy legal, hacer algunas de esas reuniones, sea lo que sea. Es nuestro objetivo. Y sin ustedes no podemos hacer nada. Así que Child Care Law Center se llama nuestro centro, porque para eso estamos. Así que llámenme para lo que necesiten, pero no vayan a usar mis palabras en mi contra. Me encanta esa pregunta. Es una tarea que estamos asumiendo todos. Yo como periodista hago lo que sea necesario para tener siempre este tema en las noticias, para poder continuar con esta conversación. Yo lo que hago es tomar sus historias y tratar de llevarlas al público, ya sea las noticias o en la web, expresando que no tiene por qué ser tan difícil. El próximo mes voy a ir a Vermont. Es un estado que está invirtiendo mucho dinero en cuidados, porque creo que lo que está haciendo Vermont puede ser el plano para seguir para otros proyectos. Se pensaba que en California iba a haber bancarrota porque la licencia de paternidad, y pasó lo contrario. Así que ese es el tipo de conversación que me interesa. Les pido compartan sus historias con sus colaboradores, amistades, padres. Todo lo que ustedes dicen es importante. Hay diferentes amenazas que atacan este trabajo, pero todo cambia cuando creamos una historia y un rostro detrás de esa. Así que yo escribiré la historia, pero ustedes serán el rostro. Muchas gracias por esa excelente conversación. Es hora de cerrar este panel. Maisha, Juanita, Jan, Lisa, gracias por esta maravillosa conversación con tanto espíritu, corazón. Gracias a Zócalo Public Square y a Irvine Foundation por este programa. Encontrarán un resumen en el sitio web de Zócalo en los próximos días, así como entrevistas con todos nuestros panelistas. Suscríbanse a el boletín, redes sociales y podcast de Zócalo para más conversaciones. Gracias a ustedes, al público, por acompañarnos. Quédense en la recepción para continuar con la conversación. Tendremos alimentos y bebidas. Si tienen niños en el área de cuidado infantil, no olviden recogerlos, pasar por ellos. Pasen por ellos primero para que nos puedan acompañar, junto con la gente de Oak Tree, donde trabaja Juanita. Muchas gracias de nuevo y un gran aplauso.